Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this event. I would say welcome to you all in the audience here in Bodø, and we also have an audience sitting back home or in their job around. So this is a digital meeting. So I welcome you all to this EU Arctic Strategy event. My name is Nils Christian Sørheim Nielsen. I'm the director of the North Norway European Office, and together with Nord Universitet, we are having this side event in connection with the High North Dialogue. Today, we have invited you to both participate, listen, and contribute to the discussion concerning the possibilities in the Arctic. Last October, the EU launched their new Arctic strategy. This strategy has got a lot of attention. And today, we have invited Iben Ellersgaard Nielsen. He's Danish, so it says Nielsen. From the European External Action Service to come here and to tell you about this new wonder. Because through the Norwegian EEA cooperation and also our participation in many EU programs, this new policy is of high relevance to us. You could say also, not least with the Green Deal as a backlog. The EU strategy has three main perspectives. One of them is geopolitics that has not been less relevant because of the, you could say, latest occurrences in Ukraine. It's also climate and environment, and these two things are the most, you could say, interesting topic for the European Parliament to discuss. But to us, the third dimension is very important, and that's the sustainable development perspective. And within this frames, it's two sectors in particular that is important. And this is also the reason why Linda Helen Haukland, she is the County Councillor for Planning and Business in Nordland, and also Professor Bjørn Olsen from Nord Universitet is here today. And they represent both the, you could say, the R&D sector and also the more business societal perspective of the development. But let's start with you, Iben. Last October, the EU launched their new EU strategy. And can you tell us a little bit about both the Arctic perspective of the EU and its new strategy? So please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you this morning on such a distinguished panel. I think that our hearts and thoughts are very much with our Ukrainian thoughts these days. So allow me first to make a general point. And I think you alluded to this, so let me pick up on that. When the theme of this year's High North Dialogue was announced, the Great Shift, I think that we all could immediately see ourselves in this and see our stakes in this. We found our way through a critical phase of the pandemic where we couldn't meet. And then after summers with alarming temperatures in the Arctic and elsewhere, by the way. So the urgent need for climate action and green transition is so obvious to us all. However, Russia's unprovoked and illegal invasion of Ukraine, together with President Putin's statements about discarding the European and global security order, will add another geopolitical layer to the meaning of the Great Shift. We will need to take a renewed look at Arctic cooperation, just as we have to review all other cooperation where we have hitherto engaged with representatives from Russia. As you will have seen, the 7 like-minded member states of the Arctic Council have agreed to cease working with Russia and the EU, of course, welcomes this decision. Likewise, Russia has been excluded from regional bodies such as the Barents Euro-Arctic Council and the Northern Dimension. We continue to believe that tensions which may affect the Arctic are primarily linked to global posturing. However, the deteriorated relationship with Russia means that areas of key importance to Arctic regions will also be affected. This is a setback, but we must be realistic when we look at the more hostile world we are facing. Now, what I would really like to convey to you all today is that let me stress that the EU's ambitions for Arctic cooperation will be maintained. Now, we will have to walk on two legs. First, no contact with Russia on a business as usual basis. And second, we should continue Arctic cooperation among like-minded partners and via suitable channels and fora. After all, the climate change and biodiversity crisis, migration of fish stocks, and threats to the livelihoods of indigenous peoples, other things I could mention, have not disappeared overnight. We are currently discussing with our many like-minded partners how this can best happen. So I am very happy to be in such good company this morning, and I will now zoom in on our specific topic, which is North Norway and the new EU Arctic policy. You mentioned this already, so I just repeat that October last year, the High Representative and the European Commission adopted EU's updated Arctic policy with good input from several people in this room here today. So I want to thank you for this. So High Representative and the European Commission, it means that for us, this is both internal EU policy, but it's also foreign policy. It has both dimensions. The Arctic has changed dramatically in recent decades, and especially quickly in the 6 years since EU's last policy was released. Climate change is having a dramatic effect. The Arctic is warming 3 times faster than the global average. Melting ice and thawing permafrost threaten the livelihoods of communities which have lived in the Arctic for centuries and cause untold damage to fragile ecosystems. This has enormous ramifications for global patterns, climate patterns, and accelerates global warming. So we're in this together. At the same time, some actors see new opportunities, and geopolitical interest in Arctic matters has grown hugely. New players, including China, are increasingly active, attracted by easy access to resources and to transport routes. Russia is looking to increase the exploitation of oil and gas and encourage shipping through the Northern Sea route. And we have all noted a major increase in Russian military activity, now with this clear manifestation in Ukraine. As a major geopolitical and economic player, the EU must react to these challenges and bring its Arctic engagement into line with our political priorities, not least the European Green Deal. The EU is committed to upholding a safe, stable, sustainable, and prosperous Arctic, which must remain a region of low tension and peaceful multilateral cooperation. You hear us say this again and again, but it's really important for me to emphasize that the European Union is in the Arctic. We have strategic and day-to-day interest, both in the European Arctic and the broader Arctic. In short, EU engagement here is a necessity. So for the first time, our Arctic policy has a separate chapter on geopolitics of the Arctic and how the EU wishes to position itself in this reality. We seek to mainstream Arctic matters in our diplomacy and enhance our work in Arctic regional fora. Given the challenges we all face, it will be important for us to work together with all Arctic partners in Europe, from regional to international level, with US and Canada, and with all players involved in Arctic affairs. Now, one of our proposals, especially here in Norway, gained the media headlines, and this was our push for oil, gas, and coal to stay in the ground and to work with our partners towards a long-term moratorium on further hydrocarbon reserve development in the Arctic. But there's, of course, much more to the policy than this. Yes, the European Green Deal is at the heart of the EU engagement, together with the Fit for 55 package, our biodiversity policy, and the EU's approach for a sustainable blue economy, supported by science, innovation, and regional investment. We are now at a point in time where we are no longer discussing whether we need a green transition, but how we want it to look. What kind of societies do we want to live in, and how do we get there? So the High North has a key role to play in this. North Norway is already in the vanguard of extremely interesting developments and with huge potential to lead the green transition. Clearly, some Arctic regions need economic development. At the same time, there are many interests at play, and this process must be steered very carefully. Indigenous communities have justified concerns about potentially negative effects on the way of life, depending on how we go about. It is our dream that through the green transition, Arctic regions can showcase future compatible job creation in sectors including green energy and sustainable approaches to connectivity, tourism, and innovation. And we believe that the European Union can contribute significantly to a dynamic transition, which is already taking place. Look, for example, at the development of green battery production. Now, I should also make it very clear that we want to put people first. We will invest in people and sustainable jobs, increase the involvement of young women and indigenous people in decision-making processes. For the first time in our Arctic policy, we make a direct reference to the principle of free, prior, and informed consent before taking decisions with an effect on indigenous peoples. We will use funding available from several programs, for instance, Horizon Europe, our regional funds, and our connectivity and space programs to create opportunities for innovative companies. Over the last 7 years, the EU has funded around 300 million euro of Arctic research under Horizon 2020, notably on climate change, biodiversity, and sustainable development. Now, this commitment will continue under Horizon Europe. And our regional programs do not just apply to EU members, but extend to Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and Norway. The recently unveiled Global Gateway infrastructure strategy also offers tangible possibilities for Arctic regions. So now that our policy paper is out, the hard work begins on implementing what we proposed. The EU can set out a framework, whether it be through our legislation, priorities we set in our funding programs, or establishment of better communication links. But it is people who live and work in the Arctic who need to tap into this funding, establish projects, and exploit fully the opportunities which are out there. So we look to you for ideas, for innovation, but also advice and discussions. We're very grateful for your support and the close cooperation in general on the Arctic issues. I'm really looking forward to our discussion this morning, a good conference, and of course, future cooperation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't know if the sound is on, but this is a very good introduction to what we are going to talk about also on a regional Arctic level. And based on what Iben just have said, and that we also is having a key role in desired development. So I think I leave the floor to you, Linda, to elaborate a little bit on behalf of Nordland, Northern Norway, about this, the possibilities.
Thank you. I have been challenged to talk about how Nordland County are planning to contribute to reaching the goals of the European Union's Arctic policy. It's tempting to become introspective and talk about us buying electric bikes and our employees can use to get to meetings, or implementing zero emissions vehicles in public transport, both on land and on sea. But while that's important, it's small potatoes in the bigger picture of the development of the Arctic region. If we want to ensure a peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous Arctic, we need to talk about the big trends of the North. Just a few years ago, we were talking about the green shift as something that might happen. Now we're standing in the middle of it. The Arctic is on the precipice of a massive growth in prosperity built on sustainable energy using green power. In Skellefteå in Sweden, Northvolt is building a battery factory and are signaling a potential of 4,000 jobs just in their own factory. In Mo i Rana, Freyr Battery are doing the same, and their production, supplying businesses and an increase in consumption paves the way for 3,000 new jobs in that municipality. In Narvik, Aker Horizon has signaled a total investment of up to 50 billion Norwegian crowns in building a new green industrial hub with plans ranging from green steel and hydrogen production to hospitality services. The Arctic show the truth of President von der Leyen's statements that the European Green Deal is a growth strategy, cutting emissions while creating jobs. This growth is an unparalleled opportunity for the Arctic communities, but we need public involvement and public policy to ensure that the benefits materialize. The factories are coming here. Of that, there is little doubt. We have the space they need, the green power they need, and the stable political conditions they need. The question is whether or not we get the workers, their families, and a large piece of the value chain. Nordland County works along 3 tracks to make the green shift a positive one for our region. First, we work alongside the municipalities where a large amount of new green jobs are coming. We hire consultants to get a factual basis to work from. This gives us quality checked numbers on the expected numbers of jobs, a realistic look on spin-off effects, population growth, and need for public services, housing, and transport. Then we work together to ensure that the municipality can meet the needs of the future workers and their families. Second, we work to make sure we meet our own responsibilities, that the secondary education system in the county can meet the new industry's needs for skilled workers, that public transport systems changes with an influx of new inhabitants, that we take the responsibility we have as a regional developer to help businesses expand and change, build good communities, and show that the Arctic is cool and not cold. Third, we work with national and international policy. The EU has launched an IPK, a so-called important project of common European interest on batteries to develop a competitive, innovative, and sustainable battery value chain in the EU. In Finland, in the United Kingdom, and in Sweden, we see a state that is an active participant in the development of a green industry. They work on building value chain, on recruitment, on new climate solutions. In Norway, the same enthusiasm for supporting a growth in green industry has lacked, but we are now following other European nations. The Norwegian Minister of Trade and Industry has said that he is working to get Norway included in the IPK, and we see a shift in policy towards a more active state. That's a good thing. I believe that Norway needs an active policy to support the businesses and, more importantly, the communities experiencing growth. Because in the North, this growth will help solve two problems. Not only will it bring Norway and Europe closer to being fit for 55 and give the world the products it needs to move towards a carbon neutral future, it will also help solve one of the most persistent problems of the Arctic, our demographic challenges. An influx of young families to the north will help offset the aging population. Handled correctly, it will give us workers in the factories, the scientists developing new solutions, and the marketeers selling the products. Their partners will help man the public sector, will create their own businesses, and help existing businesses grow. Their kids will grow up here and help secure the Arctic future. The green shift is a great opportunity. It helps reach the goals of the European Union's Arctic policy and the Norwegian High North policy. It lays the foundation for an unparalleled growth in the communities in the north. And it helps Europe towards strategic autonomy by supplying green energy in many and varied forms. We need to grab this opportunity, work hard, and make sure it doesn't go to waste, because the structures of trade laid now will be hard to shift later.
Thank you very much. We are going to grill you a bit later on the various topics, but before that we are going further to the research and development sector, and it's already mentioned a lot. This is of crucial importance for the development in the Arctic in the future. So Björn, the floor is yours to elaborate a little bit around this.
Good morning, everyone. I almost said good morning, students. That's what I normally do. And then they stand up and say, good morning, professor. I will address my speech partly to the Commission and therefore you. In the introduction of your EU strategy, you point out that you will be working to ensure that the Arctic remains safe, stable, sustainable, peaceful, and prosperous. We living up here in the Arctic have a mutual interest with the European Commission. The Arctic is our home, which we, more than anyone, have an interest in working to ensure that it remains safe, stable, sustainable, peaceful, and not at least prosperous. The question is, of course, how do we do that? And how do we do that together? With its abundance of natural and environmental resources, there are fantastic opportunities for building a prosperous Arctic. But although the value creation in the Arctic has been on a continuous growth path compared with the average of the Arctic countries, the last decade or so, this has not provided a sufficient growth path related to its human and social capacity. Hence, there are considerable challenges related to its most important resource and the main engine for growth, the people of the Arctic. We are pleased that you are prioritizing people living in the Arctic in your EU strategy. But although your Arctic strategy claimed that the total population is projected to remain relatively constant in the future, you put, in my opinion, too little emphasis on the underlying structure and problem related to its demographics and the industrial mix of the Arctic. Let's take a look at the people of the Arctic. What the number tells us is that the Arctic has been subject to and is facing a large disadvantage when it comes to its demographic development compared to the average of the countries. Our forecast toward 2040 is also rather grim. The young, and especially young females, are leaving. The educational level is far beyond the respective national average for most of the Arctic region. To be on the national average for Norway, we should have had 20,000 more people with higher education in the northern part of Norway. Hence, we are leaving behind an older population and a diminishing, less educated working population. The Arctic is also facing a growing urban-rural divide. The number tells us that the general trend is that the larger municipalities gets larger and the smaller one gets smaller. It is in general the largest cities of the Arctic, and especially those who host universities, that have a positive growth path, indicating a long-term gradual deterioration of a large number of municipalities. We also see an alarming situation when it comes to the share of people in the working age. A smaller proportion of the population in the Arctic is going to work in the future, putting a strain on health and welfare, both when it comes to government spending and human resources. As the unemployment rate is low, the industry's access to workers is diminishing toward 2040. And they must compete with a diminishing workforce in the rest of the Arctic countries as well. By 2040, it is expected to be 30,000 less people in the working age in the Nordic Arctic alone, 15,000 of those in North Norway. But the Arctic is not only losing people, it's also losing jobs. And the industrial mix of the region portray a picture of a region with a relatively large public sector, but a small and declining service sector. The situation for the industrial production is that although it's profitable, the rationalization within the sector leads to a diminishing need for workers. However, access to relatively affordable hydropower put the Norwegian Arctic, and especially Nordland County, at the center of the green transition. A huge potential for growth from existing, but mostly from new companies, is apparent, and many new jobs can be created. Hence, the green tradition has hit the Norwegian Arctic, and especially Nordland County, and can potentially create a turning point for the challenging demographic situation. So I'm pleased that one of the goals in the EU strategy is to stimulate an innovative green transition. I also believe that the European Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package is rather clear, moving away from fossil fuels toward renewables, and that's good. In addition, we see a very exciting development related to blue growth, focusing on a sustainable development of the potentials the oceans present. But let's take a closer look at the service sector. Although we find that services, especially services for businesses, are economically lucrative in the Arctic, we see an alarming small proportion and a reduction, especially in knowledge-intensive services. The share of jobs in the knowledge-intensive sector of total employment is nearly 17% for Norway. Well, for the Norwegian Arctic is only 9.6%. And the same picture actually emerges for all Arctic countries. The situation now is that these services need to be imported from other parts of the Arctic countries, placing a strain on further development. So, in focusing on the green and the blue transition in the Norwegian Arctic, a substantial part of the needed competence to follow through has to be imported from outside the Arctic, potentially hampering the foundation for the green and blue transition in the Arctic. So, summing up opportunities and challenges, there are considerable, actually there are enormous opportunities to be found in the Arctic, especially related to the green and blue transition. However, the human resources are diminishing along with the quality of it. This is the most alarming underlying structural challenge related to the possibilities for building a sustainable and resilient Arctic. There is a need for creating a sustainable development path for the Arctic, where also more of the values created in the Arctic stays in the Arctic, specifically by searching for mechanisms where the value chains are expanded and new one is created. This implies a growth in especially the education level and within the knowledge intensive services, alongside a stronger focus on innovation and entrepreneurship to increase the capacity to adapt and to transform. This also involves searching for mechanisms to increase both R&D investment and R&D workers into the region, because the number of R&D workers in this region is alarmingly low. To do that, we need to increase the region attractiveness for young and especially young educated people, not only for those already living here, but also from other parts of the world. We also need to strengthen the knowledge institution of the Arctic and build more Arctic knowledge relevant for a positive development. We need more Arctic knowledge, and we need to educate more people in the Arctic for the Arctic. However, currently 93% of all Arctic research is related to natural sciences and only 7% to social sciences. So to get a better understanding of a sustainable and resilient development of the Arctic, we also need a lot more social science research. So how to address it? To meet the challenges and opportunities of the Arctic, we need to have a knowledge development for, about, and not at least in the Arctic. The knowledge development needs to address the underlying structural problems of the Arctic to be able to fully capitalize on the opportunities ahead. These underlying important structural problems are the demographics, the attractiveness for young educated people, the urban-rural divide, the industrial structure, and that much of the value created in the Arctic don't stay in the Arctic. These challenges have to be addressed multidisciplinary, include both research and education, have a circumpolar perspective, and build a close collaboration with research institutions in the Arctic, as well as people, society, and industry in the Arctic. Nord University and Åland Research Institute is therefore taking an additional initiative to increase the understanding and systematically build knowledge addressing these challenges and opportunities. We named this initiative C-North, the acronym for Research on Social, Economic, and Environmental Sustainable Development in the High North. But although the main focus for the initiative is related to an increase in the much needed social science, it is multidisciplinary in its approach by also including natural sciences. The aim is filling the knowledge gap, enabling us to contribute not only to a more environmental sustainable Arctic, but also a more social and economically sustainable Arctic. As part of this initiative, we are also setting up a Center for Sami and Indigenous Research. So to sum it up, we would like to see a stronger initiative from the Commission committed to, as you phrase it, prioritizing people living in the Arctic. And as you phrase it, promoting sustainable regional development places a much stronger focus on social and economic sustainability, and by that ensuring a more prosperous Arctic. So let's work together. There is a number of challenges, but also fantastic opportunities to be found. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now go over to our panel where we are going to have a discussion, and of course it's possible for also you in the audience to raise your hand if there's something you want to ask about. But the topic of this seminar is North Norway and the new EU Arctic policy, and where do we go from here? And we have also heard that we are in the center of the green transition, and we are key factors and it is enormous possibilities in our region. And I can start with you, Iben. After working with the EU Arctic policy, you also have learned quite a bit about the European Arctic. And is there anything you would like to see that we do more with regard to the policy and the green transition?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm afraid that a bit boring answer to this is keep doing what you do. Because I think we established, especially in the preparation of the EU Arctic policy, we had a really good stakeholder dialogue, and it means firstly that we understand what are the needs, the diversity in the Arctic. We always, I mean, in my work, part of the time, I think it's at least one time a day I'm considering, should we say the Arctic or the Arctic regions or the many Arctic regions, or how you want to phrase it, because we have there's a thing about the branding of the Arctic, which is a bit complex, because if you're not in the Arctic, you tend to talk about the Arctic. But the truth is there are many Arctics, and it's really important that we get our analysis right. So if I can pick up, for instance, Björn, on your point about demographic challenges, very important, very different. It really matters where you are. So I think we should continue having this kind of dialogue. We need to, we ask you to engage when we talk about the Global Gateway, many other European projects. Now I'm the political advisor of EU Special Envoy for Arctic Matters, and that post was created partly because we need this, this link between policymakers here and in Brussels. So that means when we prepare policies, programs, whatever, that we do this sanity check. How does this really fit in with the work that you do? And it goes really both ways. So in the EU, we're really eager to tell what we do, what is our engagement in Arctic Matters all about. That's part of Michael Mann's work. But the other half of it is really also to translate the other way around. So I really hope that you want to continue this good dialogue. I think it's very constructive and really important to get it right, because we don't have a lot of time. The green transition, it's now.
I really like that you contribute to making the Arctic to a cool place.
Yeah.
By saying the Arctic that way. And, it's not a cold place. And we can go further to. We could start with you, Björn, and what's your what opportunities would you like to see more in the EU Arctic strategy? Is there something missing in your opinion?
Yes. I would like to put a much stronger focus on prosperous. Because if you don't have a prosperous Arctic, there would not be people living in the Arctic. And also when you argue for a more resilient Arctic, your main focus when it comes to resilience is mainly on climate change and environmental degradation. So I think if you are to build a more resilient Arctic, you also need to focus more on socio-economic resilience, which involve not only environmental sustainability, but a much stronger focus on social and economic sustainability as well. And also when you focus on the prioritizing people, I would like to see a much stronger focus on knowledge development related to the understanding and solving the underlying structural problem of the Arctic related to its people and its industry, much stronger. And also, and this might be, don't turn the Arctic into a natural park or a protected area, because it's people living up here.
Good. What about you, Linda? Is it something you see from a regional perspective that's missing in this strategy?
Well, first, I will say that the strategy is very good and that we are so happy placing our region in the solutions for the green shift. So we really see that it fits in for what we are about to face with a green industry and the development of our cities. We see that we have several cities transforming by the green shift. We are now working on a mineral strategy. And we made a mineral strategy for the Northern Norway and even for Northern Norway, Finland, and Sweden. And we believe that on the mineral side, we do also have a solution for the green shift. We know that essential minerals and rare earth, essential minerals, it will be crucial in order to have this change to renewable energy. So in order to be more self-supplied, we are working to be one of the solution for this, and we see that we could really have a common interest due to the plan of being self-sufficient in the EU. It's really something we want to add to, but also to have some strengthening in our region to see how to do this in a better way so that we can come up with the minerals we have and contribute in order to be self-sufficient. Yeah. So that's one perspective that we really want to lift, and we believe that we will it will be a strong area, yes, for us. But also, as you said, Björn, the social dimension is important, and we can see that regions in the EU is not the same as regions here, because we do have municipalities under 500 citizens. So it's really a different picture, and we have, even in Norway, we have a different profile. So when the states is heading a problem, we have solved it, and we have another problem. So I'm so happy for this dialogue, because it will help us out to really communicate what we need and how to develop the Arctic towards the future and the green shift. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. We have the first question from the audience. It's Kirsti Meti from Tromsø municipality.
Do I need a microphone or?
I think he is coming.
Thank you. Thank you for all the interventions. And I would like to make maybe not a question, but more a comment. First of all, I would like to thank the EU for having a Arctic policy. I think that is very important. The second thing I would like to thank the EU for is that it is really the actor that has made trans-border cooperation in the Nordic region between, like at the Nordkalotten, how do you say it?
Nordkalotten.
Yeah. Possible. I mean, it's probably the actor that does the most in order to finance cooperation in the North, which we haven't on our own really managed since the 50s when this organization, Nordkalotten Samarbeid, was initiated. And the third thing I would like to thank the EU for is that putting the green shift and the climate ambitions that you have so high up on your priority, strategically speaking, is really also pushing us, even being a non-EU member, to really join your efforts and making it possible for us to do that through the EEA agreement and the Horizon Europe cooperation. Now, my comment here is really that I'm a little bit surprised from some of the comment, maybe especially your comment, Björn Olsen, because I think we need to be really aware of the roles that we have. I mean, it's not the EU role to stimulate demographics in Norway or at the national level. It is really a national responsibility. education, it's a national responsibility. Social sustainability is a national responsibility. And the Arctic region, being an international region by definition, has its own sovereign states. And the EU is a sub-regional actor. So we need really to get the roles really clear. Who is doing what and what type of arenas do we have to discuss those things where we really need to work together. So that's, to me, a kind of a missing, maybe a little bit of a lack of consciousness from all of us in some of the discussions. Whose responsibility, is it? And how do we interact on the different levels? I think that's a very central question when we discuss this question. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to comment?
Yes, when it comes to role, because I think it's important, and also when it comes to the EU strategy, that if you want to create sustainable development in the Arctic, you need to address the underlying structural problems of the Arctic. And you need to understand that, because if you don't understand the underlying structural problems, then it's more difficult to have an effective EU strategy. So that's my point. Not about roles, but for understanding where do we stand and how do we proceed in the best possible manner.
Very good. I see that Andreas in the back here is also.
Yeah, good morning. I only have one question before I need to run to my own side event. I've been dealing with the EU's Arctic policy for a little bit. So I'm not going into detail, but I really want to follow up the first comment here. I'm pretty sure that there's and I know that from many discussions and analyzing the policy, that there's a huge awareness and a huge big knowledge within some units in the External Action Service and the Commission on what the Arctic is really about, and especially what the European Arctic is about. So my question is really a follow-up to the first comment. What can North Norway as a region actually do to help Europe, and not only the few units within the Commission or the External Action Service, but the European Union in general, to help other member states or other actors that are not really Arctic ones, to sell the Arctic a bit better within the entire system of 27 member states, that are, most of them see the Arctic as a place to be protected, and I think that's a clear one, from many discussions and many, media outlets and whatever it is. So I think the question is really, what can North Norway do? Not always what the EU can do for North Norway, but the other way around. What can North Norway do to help Europe to, better understand the opportunities of the Arctic, not only the challenges but the opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You touched a little bit upon this in the first question, but is there something to add on Andreas' question here?
Yes, I think in a way, actually, what Andreas just said, it kind of puts it all together, because the thing is, we're talking now about, what is the little potato, what is the mega trend, what is the underlying structure? But I think it really boils down to the question of what is the strategic potato, right? Because that's also why I'm happy to, position the discussion we have here today in a geopolitical context, because we have to understand that the strategic opportunities here are important far beyond local communities here. It's really important for the green transition as a whole to succeed. So it is key to the European Green Deal. Yeah, I think I said in my first speech, like, we're in this together, and I think that is so true on several levels. Yeah, so thank you for that really good question, Andreas. I think the point I really want to make is that it's two ways.
It is, and I want to come back. No, this is for you, Linda, because we was talking about this cool place and not a cold place, and we're also talking about, you could say, wording we have said, the resource paradox, or what's also called the Arctic paradox, meaning that we face exploitation of Arctic resources that are fueling growth in the south, with which leaves little wealth and growth generated in the Arctic itself. And how can we, together with the EU, make sure that our local economy is built on, you could say, the back of local resources?
Yes, we are working with strengthening the innovation structures in order to get the value chain more advanced. And I think that's really the key to have the value added in the north, in the Arctic, and not giving away our fish and our resources for others to have the value of it. So that's really a key in order to manage and to strengthen our region. And I really truly believe that this is one of the fields we can cooperate. And I'm so happy for what you said, that we're in this together. And I truly believe that when we have this dialogue and we are having communication, we will understand each other, and we will find the keys to really release the answers. Yes. So the value chains we are working with building them, and I think that's really crucial.
Good. Another word that has come up lately is cannibalism. And this is due to the situation we are in you could say, North Calotte. And I could ask Björn a little bit about this, because it's also related to universities and with regard to attracting competence and how we can do this to avoid the cannibalism. How can the university help, and what role can the county play? You can ask afterwards, but this is not only a problem in the Arctic, but also for other European regions, and will be a growing problem in the future. I would therefore ask you, Björn, first to reflect upon what can the university do, and thereafter I go and ask the county, and thereafter the EU. So you can start with this.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by cannibalism.
Where one eat each other, we are competing within the region, you could say, and now, for example, Mo i Rana would compete with Narvik or with Bodø about the, you could say, competent people or the attractive workforce. The same happens on the other side of the border to Sweden and to Finland. And then we start competing with each other within our Arctic region. And how can we solve this? Because we might need people from outside the region somehow, or we have to keep the people that we already have here. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think that what you see when you look at the proportion of people in the working age is declining in the Arctic, but it's also declining in Norway. So one way to address it is to make us, or have a stronger focus on recruiting people from other places in the world, because we are not enough people here. And when it comes to the university plays an extremely important role, because when you look at the university and those students who attend the university, and it's the same for North University and the Arctic University in Tromsø, 72% of them stay behind. So to increase the capacity at the university in the Arctic is extremely possible. And like I said, compared to the rest of the country, there should be 20,000 more people with higher education in the northern part of Norway. So strengthening the universities is central to solving that issue.
Yeah. Linda, from a county perspective, is it an option to get former climate refugees from Northern Norway to collect them back again?
Yeah, but I really
you can answer the original question.
Yeah, I truly believe that there's two parts. The first is that we are building attractive societies in the north. So what the county is doing, we are going into the issue on a broad scale, and recruitment is a really key to what that is really the biggest question. But still, if you want people to stay, you have to build societies with a lot of services and transport and everything around. So what we are doing now, we are preparing the cities and preparing the municipalities for the growth to come, and doing all the preparations also on the planning side in order to realize, to release the potential. But also we are looking into a new policy, because until now we have thought that to build the districts and the regions, we need to create jobs, and we truly do. But now we created so many jobs, we really need to have a policy which also include recruitment. So we are just about to find a new policy, new parts, in order to solve this problem, in order to not have cannibalism, but to recruit competent workers on a large scale, which really will be needed. And we also need that in the most peripheries, the young adults who has got their training and their education, they really want an interesting job, and there's two of them. So we need to find to see to that in the uttermost in the districts, we also have jobs which are attractive for young people. So we are looking into this on a broad scale, and I truly believe that we will find answers for this as well. Yeah.
And even what about the EU? Do you have any tools or initiatives to tackle this kind of problems?
I'm not sure that we have a one-to-one solution, but can I maybe just say that this concept of attractivity, well, it doesn't really, it's not very nice in English. It's better in Norwegian, but it's really a key concept in the High North strategy. And when we were writing the joint communication, we found a lot of inspiration in this, and it really was exactly the thinking that you need to ensure that whatever you want to do, people will have to do it. So we need to see through that lens of, people. And one of the things we also learned from the process that Norway has had on this was, they had discussions with these young people's panels, where a lot of young people give, so again, a sanity check, telling them, what are our concerns? What do we care about? How do I see myself in this world? Like, if you're a young person who live in the north and consider, do I want to, move somewhere else to have my life, or do I want to stay here? What would make a difference for me? So that, constant discussion and finding out what is really at stake for the young people, and then how can we help that? So it's about revisiting the analysis, I think, again and again. So we learned a lot from that, and we tried to do it, and Norway kindly helped us also to find young people who would sort of give us the same bouncing of arguments.
Well, we have heard that we are almost by the end now, and it's 1 minute left before the stream is cut down. But we are allowed to continue a little bit. So if you don't mind, we have a young man who a question down here, and I was supposed to go into this culture dimension of living in the Arctic, but we see what we manage. So yeah.
It's more a comment because we talk about the cannibalism. So the cannibalism is like a competition for the people. But for the people who want to get the jobs, this competition is good, because this competition needs that those who want the people, they need to step up to provide an attractive workplace. And there is many places where this workplace doesn't take this serious. Writing good contract, giving people stable job. I have been in a focus group for the last year, and one of the most common reasons people move from small villages is that you can't be sure that you get a long-term contract, and you can't plan your grown-up life if you don't have a long-term contract. So this competition for head need to also take in perspective the need for the workers.
It's a really good comment, and yeah, you might be in the position to do something firmly on this, but yeah. Thank you. As I said, this session we're supposed to be over now, but if you have to leave, you can do that. Otherwise, we can just sit here and talk a little bit more. If you have to leave, you can do that, but we can talk a little bit more. We are going into culture, a cultural dimension right now. And as all of you know, we are now in the coming European capital of culture, and just across the border to Finland, we is having Oulu, is going to be the European capital of culture in 2026, and these are very important topics, and we have mentioned this resource and competence is one aspect of this, but we can, this is a question for all of you, but we could start locally or regionally, and what role can culture play in the development of the Arctic and Northern Norway, and how can we use culture to increase the visibility of Northern Norway, and yeah, we can start with that.
Yeah,
So,
I truly believe it's crucial.
Yeah.
It's an utterance of human life and our culture and our values and our resources as well. So I really think culture is a crucial thing, and that we need to build societies having these expressions, and like the house we are in today, and facilities to host culture is crucial for our cities, and we also see that it help people stay. So it's really crucial to have these utterances, and also to have national culture represented in our communities. So Bodø 2024 will be a big peak for culture in our region, but it's also a national happening. So it's really also going to lift our culture up on a European level, and we are looking so much forward to it. And the goal of having workers and having infrastructure for culture after this year with us, and it will be a lot of ringvirkninger.
Ripple effects.
Yes, triple F effects from this year. So we really think it's important. Yeah.
Björn?
I also think that culture is extremely important because it leads to several things. One is, like you said, Iben, you used the word attractiveness. It's increased the attractiveness to stay here, to move it, but also attractiveness for tourists. And also it's a way to create identity, which is important. It provides us with better lives. But also, and that's important, and it's not that often spoken about, but culture is also business and employment. And sometimes very lucrative as well. So extremely important.
And even what's the EU point of view, thinking about culture, Arctic development? What's the importance?
Perhaps I can start on a more personal note to say I'm an anthropologist by training. Okay. So for me, culture is, well, it's all about the way we live. It's all about industry. It's all about business. It's all about everyday life. And